We'll get started in 1 minute. Hello, my name is Lisa Bush, and I'd like to welcome you to the Affordable Integrated Municipal Software webinar. First of all, everybody should be looking at my desktop. I do have everybody on mute. However, if you do have questions during the presentation, there's a couple different ways you can ask. One is I'll stay on at the end to answer questions. You can also send me a chat message, or you can take yourself off mute to ask a question. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a look at what we're going to cover in the next hour. We're going to talk about our integrated solution. We have over 30 different modules that you can pick and choose to automate on your time frame. Essentially, no workarounds. We're able to automate your entire municipality, and we give you the ability to post in detail. And what I mean by that is you can be in the accounting system and actually see customers that were billed from the billing, or employees that were paid, or maybe receipts at the counter in the general ledger. So we're going to talk about the benefits of having that integrated solution. The first part of the presentation, we're going to talk about our fund accounting solution. It's designed from the ground up for local government. You're going to be able to track all your funds. You're going to get line item budgeting. There's a lot of municipalities that are using like QuickBooks where you're having to set up different companies. This is all one integrated database with all the other products that can integrate into the fund accounting. The second part of the presentation, we're going to talk about our utility billing solution. It is a true cycle billing. You're able to bill for unlimited metered services. You can easily handle those customers that move in or move out mid-cycle. So if you want to prorate those non-metered charges, we're going to also talk about using technology, such as you may want to email your utility bills, payments on your website, or perhaps using an automated reading system. So we'll talk about some of that. At the end, we're going to also talk about the benefits of one database of names and addresses. With our solution, you're able to start keeping that one database of names so that, as an example, if somebody comes into the counter and they've got one check and they want to know, hey, what's the balance? You can bring in all the balances. They might have a balance from utilities, their tax bill, and invoice, and they're literally able to pay for all that with one check. Or you get a call from one of your constituents, and on one screen, you can see their utility account, their tax account, their permit, their code violation, their license, everything about that customer, and also at the address, what's happened at this parcel. And at the very end, we'll talk about our new report designer. This tool gives you the ability to easily drag and drop fields from the database to create any type of report. So we'll take a look at that at the very end. Let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and let's see on the next screen here. I wanted to give you my contact information. So if you do have questions after the presentation, you've got my email, you've got my phone number. Feel free to reach out. My goal today is to give you a good overview so that you'll have an idea of the functionality of the software. So let's take a look at the software. Okay, here's the screen that you see when you log onto our software. As I mentioned earlier, we have a financial suite, a utility billing suite. Our general government suite is where we do things like building permits, code enforcement, tax billing. We have public safety and courts, and the report designer. Let's start with the financials. So I'm going to click on the dollar sign, and even within the financial area, you can pick and choose which products that you want to implement. As an example, you might decide, I want to outsource my payroll. You wouldn't have to license that. Also, all of the products that we have, the look and feel is the same. The way our menus are set up are the same. So it's very easy to train staff, such as things that you do on a daily basis, those items are under the daily tab. Things that you might do once a month, once a year, you're going to see those under the periodic tab. We're going to look at reports today. All of the products have reports. You have unlimited history. So in this example, you can run a financial for any period. All of the reports you can email, you can go to Word or go to Excel. So it's just like a Microsoft product. Each application has inquiries. You're able to search unlimited history, and we're going to look at some examples where we can drill down and see detail. And the very last menu option is tables, and this is really where you get started. So typically, once you're live and you're all set up, you're not going to spend any time under tables, but this is where you get to define it so that it works the way that you want it to work. So let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned earlier, the general ledger is the heart of the system. Everything flows to the GL so that if you want to post in detail, you've got that ability, but no more manual journal entries. Let's take a look at the screen that you would go to if you did need to do a journal entry. Now, once again, throughout the system, if you've got a question, there's a search box. Tell me what you know. Do you know a dollar amount, a date range? So depending on the information, you can narrow your search. Now, this is the screen that you would go to do a journal entry. This is the only time you're going to debit and credit. We're also going to make sure that you're not out of balance. Couple of key things. One is if you look at my toolbar, it is like a Microsoft product, so the navigation is identical. The icons mean the same thing. Also, if you have a question within the software, you can hit the telephone and electronically submit the call. We know exactly the product, we know the menu. Tell us a question, and then let us know if you prefer a phone call or an email. So very easy to get help. A couple of other things. This is a date-driven system. We give you the ability to post to any period. So here it is, April the 16th. If I want to post this back to November, I've got the ability to do that. Now, you can also lock it down where you can't post to that period, but you're in the driver's seat. We have the same flexibility for opening a year, closing a year. So as an example, let's say your auditors, your year ends December the 31st. Auditors may not show up for 8 weeks, but you need to go ahead and close the year. You've got the ability to open and close as many times as you need to. Also, as I mentioned, we're not going to let you get out of balance, even if you're crossing funds. We also have the ability to track grants and projects that span multiple years. And the difference is you define the grant, but you're not having to code it into your chart of accounts, so it's totally separate. But as you do journals, as you pay your bills, even payroll time, you can charge things off to a project that can last as long as you want it to. It might be, a 7-year grant, or it might be something that's happening in a weekend and you just don't want to set up accounts to track it. This is an easy way to do that. One other thing I want to point out is for all of our transactions, we have something called recurring journal entries, recurring purchase orders, recurring payables. And it's where you can actually create a template and just select it and post it. It might be as simple as it's always the same accounts, same dollar amounts, or it may be a little bit different where you need to tweak it. But the template allows you to remember as much as possible so that you don't have to remember the accounting entry. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the system is tightly integrated. If I want to look at things before I post, I can review those entries, or I can look at things after I post. So as an example, if I want to come down here and let's say I want to see items that came over from payroll, I have the ability to do that. Now, I could also do it for, a date range, a certain period, but I can review that on the screen. All of the reports you can email, go to Word, go to Excel, or even create a PDF. So once again, that's true for all the reports. Now, getting back to the main menu, under periodic, we all know how important budgeting is to a municipality. So we have a couple different ways you can create your budget. One is built into the general ledger. You can create your budget. You can do worksheets. However, we have a lot of customers that like to use Excel, And we have the ability to export your history to Excel so that you can create your new budget and simply import it in. So let's take a look at that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say yes. You can do multiple periods, certain types of accounts. I'm going to go ahead and just export everything so that I've got that information to create my budget this year. So in just a second, we're going to have the option to go right to Excel, and then on your toolbar, right here it is, I'm going to display this. I've got all of my accounts in Excel with historical information so that I'm able to use this tool. Most of our accounts, they love Excel. It's a great tool to create your budget, but you're able to easily create the budget. You've got historical information, and when you're finished, we simply import in the final budget. You're not having to key that in. So you do have an option that you can upload from Excel. You even have the ability to add an account in Excel and bring that in. We've had some clients set up their chart accounts that way. So once again, once the budget is in the system, we're going to track it, and we'll track it the same way. As an example, when you run your financial statements, do you want, you're going to get that line item budgeting. You can also run that for your original and your revised budget. When you're paying your bills, do you want a warning when you're over your budget? When you look up accounts, you can see the budget availability. So once it's in, we're going to track it. We do have the ability to do a budget revision. So if you do need to make those mid-year changes, we can track it, and we also track the reason why you did change it. So once again, the budget is built into the accounting system, and we do track it as you do your processing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's really easy to close the year. We have a wizard. It will walk you through the steps, but remember, you can easily reopen that previously closed year. We also have the ability to reverse an entry. Let's say you make a mistake. Now, if you know the transaction number, just type it in. If you don't, you can look it up. And maybe on this example, the only thing I know is it happened in payroll. Now, generally, I would probably know when or how much, or maybe even a description, but I'm going to search based on limited information. And once I have the account, here's the screen. If I want to reverse it, I simply hit post. The system makes the offsetting entry. Complete audit trail, but I didn't have to do that. So once again, if you do make a mistake, it's really easy. So those are things that you might do on a periodic basis. Let's look at the financial statements. For most of our accounts, these financial statements get them exactly what they need. Things like you're going to be able to run a statement of revenues and expenditure. You can run that for any period. You can even pull it out for the original or the revised budget. Do you want a previous year comparison? And we're going to ask you, do you like to see your percentage or dollar amount? So depending on what your preference is. You can run this for any period. We do keep unlimited history. And then most importantly, we're going to allow you to slice out your financials based on your chart of accounts. So if I only want to see one fund, I can do that. Or maybe I only want to see this for a certain department or a range of account numbers. Whatever your preference, once you define your chart of accounts, I can slice out the report based on that. So in this example, I'm going to say just a general fund, and maybe I'll do a subtotal by department, and then I'll print it to the screen. So once again, all right here, I'm going to get that line item budgeting. I could have had a previous year comparison, but at any point for your boards, you're going to know that budget availability. You can email it, put it in Word or Excel. We can also do things like a combining balance sheet for one fund or all funds. I've got historical budget reports. I can run this for a range of years and see, well, what did I budget? What was my actual? And did I have any changes? Once again, you can see trends. Now, for those that want to use purchase orders, this particular report here, the statement of expenditures, encumbrances, and appropriations, you're going to know at any point how much, if I have any outstanding purchase orders. So that's an option we have. We've got purchase orders. It will encumber the funds. Everything flows to accounts payable. But it's one of those, if you need it, we have it. If you don't have to worry about it. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, at the end, we're going to look at our report designer, and that's where you can create any kind of report. We also have a tool here called Report Excellence, and that's really geared for clients that love to use Excel. Let's say that you've got a report right now that you do for your board, it's in Excel. With this tool, you can directly link it to the accounting software and you don't have to reinvent the wheel each month. It directly links so that you can just run it based on the new numbers. You can also create a file you send to your auditors for any date range. And it's detailed information that they can import into their audit software, and it tracks literally every transaction for periods or specific dates. So like I said, lots of ways to do reporting. Now, let's take a look at some of our inquiries. Here's an example that I'm going to search, and maybe the only thing I know is that it's $25. I'm kind of looking for a needle in a haystack. So if that's all I know, I can search. Now think about it, if you've got those different companies in QuickBooks, it's kind of hard to do this. So I can go ahead and select this option. And here's an example where it's a journal. It started in accounts payable, and here's the journal. But if I want to know more, I can say, show me more. I can see information on the vendor, the PO. I can drill down and see the status of the check, the accounting, and if I've attached that invoice, I can actually see the attachment. We give you the ability to attach documents to your database. So you're going to see this in most of our products so that you're no longer filing, it stays with the accounting record, and everything's right there. Let's take a look at a couple more examples of where we can drill down in detail. So once again, I can look at any year, I can look at any account number, and if I know a little bit of information, I can search. I'm going to say this is in Fund 2 and it's a revenue account. What I want to show you is an example of where we've done our billing. It could be any account though. So I can see here, debits, credits, are there any POs? But I need to know more. One thing I could do is I could print this report. Show me everything that went in and out of this account this year. It's kind of like if you had a manual system. Show me all the in and outs for this particular account. That's great, but I need to know more. I'm going to take a look and see what happened in February. Oh, I did one billing. So this is billing over on the utility side. Okay, let's look at the journal. This is the journal that gets created. You're billing water, sewer, trash, tax. We're going to create that journal. Most vendors will at least do this part. However, we take it a step further. Because you posted in detail, I can actually show me the customers that were billed in the billing system, but I can see it in the accounting. This is true for tax, for payroll. So we'll look at some of those examples so that you can really see that integration and how it flows to the general ledger. Let's look at one more inquiry. Here's an example where, once again, any year, any period, I can see all my funds. Now, I've only got two. You can have as many as you want. I'm going to go ahead and look at the general fund, and then I can see my different departments, the budget, the balance, the year-to-date activity for expenses. I can see revenue. Let's drill down and see some more information. So here I can see, receipts at the counter, utility runs. Let's take a look at a payroll run. So here's an example where we did a payroll. Here's the journal that gets created for you from the payroll run, breaking out all those costs. Once again, if I want to see more, I can actually see these are the employees that were paid in payroll, but I'm able to see it here. Now, if I've got one more question, maybe I have a question on the actual check stub. I can actually drill down and see an individual check stub in the general ledger. So once again, tightly integrated, no manual journal entries, and you're not having to go to those sub-ledgers to see what's going on. Okay, typically in this setting, I don't cover purchase orders, but I do want you to know we do have it. It will create purchase orders. We even have the ability to do online approval so that if certain staff need to approve it before you encumber it, but everything will flow, you saw in the financial statements, but also to accounts payable. So this is one of these, you can turn it on or turn it off depending on what your requirements are. Let's take a look at accounts payable. Let's take a look at paying those invoices. So what I want to show you first is where you would actually enter in the invoice. So here's an example. Once again, if I'm doing a new one, it would be new. Couple of really nice features. One is I can add a vendor on the fly if I need to add that vendor right here. Also, you might have vendors that are deducting it out of your checking and you just want to record it and not do a paper check. You can also set up certain vendors that need to be paid electronically. You've stored their direct pay information. The system knows this one's being paid electronic, and instead of a paper check, they get an email letting them know, hey, this is going to be in your checking account the next day. Also, we're not going to let you pay the same invoice to the same vendor. We're going to stop you at that point. We know you've already paid that. And here's the feature all of our customers like: separate check. You might have a situation where a vendor has already sent you one invoice, but later in the month they send you the second one. We know, don't combine those. It needs to be separate. Or if it does need to combine, we'll actually do that. So it's just a nice feature. You don't have to do a separate check run. Now, under the amount of the invoice, down below is where you can charge it off to as many different accounts, as many different funds, but we can send that vendor one check. And if you do the attachment right here, we're going to attach it. You're no longer filing that. So that we're also going to make sure that you completely distribute that. We're not going to let you post this if you've got a dollar that you haven't distributed. And just like you saw on recurring journal entries, we have recurring payables so that you're paying the phone bill. Let it do the math for you. You might do it by percentages. Or maybe you're paying a bill and it's always the same amount, same account. So you'll set up as many templates so that you don't have to remember to do that. And if we do have some cities that need to have an integrated fixed assets, we do have it. It will know right here if you're purchasing or adding on to an asset and build that record for you. So tightly integrated. We haven't paid anything yet. Most of our municipalities will, at some point, they'll enter in their payables a little bit each day. It's time for the check run, and they'll actually run this report for the approval process. And you can sort it based on your chart of accounts or maybe by vendor. I'm going to say we're going to do it by fund and through today. So we're going to gather up all those invoices and we're going to put it in a report so that before you pay it, you've got all the information. Who are you paying? When is it due? What account is it coming out of? And most importantly, you're going to know the budget ability. So typically, this report will answer all of the council's questions. So this is what you're going to run. Now, let's say in this example, you had your board meeting, but there's a couple of changes. That's still okay. You can come up here and make those changes. An example might be, maybe the board said, we're not going to pay this one right now. So you uncheck it. It's still there. We're just not paying it right now. Or maybe, they only want to do a partial payment. Maybe they only want to pay 10,000 of the 15,000. So we're going to pay the 10, and then the balance will be the 14, and we know it's sitting there. So, and it's still in the queue. So once again, it's not too late, and then you can go through and do your check run. Now, one question I always get is, hey, maybe only one person can void checks. You can lock down by menu option on who can do what. So depending on your security, maybe Lisa is the only one that can void a check. Now, in accounts payable, tons of reports, unlimited history, lots of inquiries. I'll show you one that I really like. Here's an example where I'm going to look up a vendor, and the only thing I know is this vendor starts with an A. I can search. Now, I can also search if I know the word supply is at the end. I can do a search star supply. Or maybe I know the word office is in the middle, star office star. So you can search based on limited information, and that's true for all of our searches. But once I find the vendor, I can see every check I've ever issued. On the right-hand side, I can see the accounting, and here's the accounting, the status, and that attachment. So once again, this would be perfect for the auditor to pick this transaction and see everything right here without having to come to you. They could, answer those questions. Now, To me, the toughest part of your job is bank reconciliation. And with our cash control, we've simplified that. Um, it's going to do a couple of key things for you. One is it's going to create your deposits. You're going to the bank and you can actually pick from what area. Maybe just from the counter or just from payables or just from tax billing. You can pick and choose. And once you've ran the process, we're going to actually bring in all the detail. So you're going to be able to actually see all the detail. You pick the bank, and I'm going to select all. And I might even have a situation where I need to do a split deposit. This check needs to go into two different bank accounts. I can do that. If I'm a larger organization, I can even pull it in by a certain cash drawer. But what we're going to do is create a deposit transaction, print a deposit slip so that you can attach it and go to the bank. So now, whenever you do reconcile your bank statement, we're going to have one central place that you're going to be able to see all of your transactions. So, deposits, all the checks you've issued, even journal entries. Let's say I've recorded a journal entry to record bank fees or a wire transfer. Everything is right here under one umbrella. And if I want to get fancy, I do have the ability to bring in a file from the bank. Let the file do the heavy lifting so it matches up all the appropriate pieces, and then I'm dealing with a shorter list. But once you complete the process, you're going to have a report that's going to let you see, what was cleared and, if there's what's still open. So it's a great report for your auditor. There's also reports you're going to be able to see, I can reprint deposit slips. I can run a report, show me all the deposits that I did last year or this quarter. I even have a bank statement that I can run by period to see how it matches up to the bank. And then one inquiry that I really like, you're able to look up by bank and actually see all the deposits. You can go to any deposit and see what was in that deposit. So once again, all that detail is right here to make your life a little bit easier. Now, there's one other product I want to show you on the financial side, and that's our cash receipts. We're going to take a look at different ways you can get money into the system. And think of this as point of sale. You've got customers that walk in and they want to pay for something. So it's just like a cash register, and we give you the ability to handle the money once. So as an example, somebody walks in and the only thing they know, they want to pay their utility bill, but they don't know their account number. So basically, what do you know? Do you know your name, your phone number, your address? Tell me what you know, and then we'll find that customer. Once you do, it's going to bring in the balance, and it's going to look at utilities and say, this is the customer, this is the amount. If everything's correct, you can accept it. Or maybe they don't want to pay all of that. I'm going to say for this example, they're going to pay the entire bill. However, at the same time, maybe there's another type of transaction they want to do, maybe a miscellaneous thing that, they want a receipt, and you get to define these. No more handwritten receipts. Everything can be receipted. I'm going to say they're going to get a permit and just do a running total. I can just keep adding on. I could pay my neighbor's bill. So all of that can be receipted. You handle the money once. It will make change. You can even have a scenario where I've got check and cash all on the same receipt, or maybe two different checks. I've got roommates all here, and we print a receipt. Now, at the beginning of the presentation, we talked about the benefits of having one database of names and addresses. So you even have the ability, if somebody walks in, the only thing they know is their name, I can bring in all their balances. So in this example, this customer has several different tax accounts. They could have a utility and maybe an invoice. I'm able to receipt all of those or pick and choose, but I was able to check all the databases and bring in all the balances. So once again, that's a time saver. But the system will, like I said, print a receipt. You've got great reports for your auditor so that for any date range, you can run a report, show me what I receipted in this time period. And how do you want to see the report generated? Receipt number, Do I want to see check, cash, credit card together, or by GL account number? So lots of different ways to pull out this report. And at any point, I can reprint a receipt. So once again, this is one way that you can get money into all the different asyst products. Now, like I said, typically in this setting, I don't cover payroll. I do want you to know we do have it. We can set up a separate time to look at it. We handle unlimited pay types, deductions, benefits, leave types, direct deposit, and definitely all that accounting that happens in payroll. And you can even charge off time to projects and grants. So definitely have it, but just based on time, we won't show that today. But the next thing I want to show you is how you can do payments for on your website. So let's take a look at that. And I'm going to pretend like I am one of your customers, and I had originally signed up to get my utility bill emailed, and I just got an email and I clicked on it and it takes me here. So this would be your organization's portal, your name, your logo, so that when I sign in, I'm going to actually view my bill and I'm going to pay my bill. So I can come here, even if I'm a customer that has multiple accounts, I can see all of my accounts in this portal. Once I select an account, I can see all the bills that have been created. I've only got one here. I can print that bill or I can look at that bill. So if I'm one of your customers that have signed up to get it emailed, they're perfect. Um, Maybe they pay it electronically, so they can look at it and just, have it for the records. However, if they do want to pay it now, you can actually pay it now, and we're going to actually bring in the balance. And in this scenario, your municipality can accept any type of credit card. You collect 100% of the amount. It calculates a convenience fee. Customer pays that, but all payments are integrated. You're not having to key these payments in. So that's one example. You might even have customers that they sign up to get their bill, um, you know, they didn't sign up to get their bill emailed, but when they log in, they want to pay maybe their utility bill and maybe their court citation. The difference is the balance isn't here. They'll simply key in their account number. They'll key in how much they want to pay. It calculates the convenience fee, so they know how much they're going to pay extra to use that credit card. Um, Typically, it's going to be less than a penalty, but you're able to say yes to credit cards. You get your payments posted in. You're not having to key those in, and everybody's happy because the customer's not being cut off. So that's another way. So for all of our balances, you can do online payments. So with that, what I thought we would do next is jump over and take a look at utility billing. As I mentioned earlier, we bill for unlimited metered and non-metered charges. Let's take a look at all the information that we can track on your customers. And I'm going to, once again, here's that same search. What do I know? If I know a little bit of information, I can search. And I'm going to bring up Lucy. Okay, on one screen, this is where you've got everything on your customers. As I mentioned, we're a true cycle billing. You can bill everybody in one group, or you may have multiple groups, but we do handle those customers that move in or move out mid-cycle. So you don't have to be at the mercy of the billing software. We also give you the ability to have as many different class codes. This is a great code that you can pull out certain reports, maybe balances or consumption, but it's your code. You can have as many as you want. We also have different statuses. When you go live, most of your customers are going to be active. We do have an integrated service order piece so that for new customers, finals, or transfers, I can automatically create service orders to go get the reading. So I'm able to track those. I also have a status of on and off in the same billing period. I might have an inactive bill or inactive don't bill. They've skipped town, they've left you with the balance, but at any point they come back, you know they still owe you money. So we're not going to lose that. We can transfer customers. I can have a customer go from Main Street to Elm Street. I can move the balance and the deposit to the new address. So we move the money. You're not having to manually do that. And then here's a feature everybody likes: vacants. We can track this property even though nobody's living there. There might be consumption. You can be proactive. So once again, different statuses. If you look at the customer tab, notice that I've got it, they're the owner and the occupant, same person. Let's say they're not. I uncheck it. I'm going to send the bill to the renter, but I want to know who the owner is. Maybe the owner wants to get a copy of the delinquent bill or maybe the actual bill. Totally up to you. Or maybe you've got a situation where you're going to send the bill to the owner, but you want to know who lives there. Everybody can get copies. Or maybe you have a situation where somebody outside of town gets the bill. You've got an owner and an occupant, and everybody can get a copy. It's all in how you check this. It assumes they're the same, but you can uncheck it to track multiple people. We also track primary, secondary addresses. Do they want a paper bill or an e-bill? When they register on your website, the system tells us, don't print the bill. They're electronic and it stores the email address. It's an interactive process. You can also easily draft payments. And any customers that are being drafted, they still get the bill and it lets them know don't pay it, but they've got the detail. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we handle unlimited metered and non-metered. In my example, I've only got one metered service. I could easily bill electric, water, and gas. Or maybe I've got 10 water meters at this address. I can track all 10. But we do track, the location, the booking route. We work with several automated satellite reading systems, or we have some customers that just key in their own readings. It's totally up to you. We also have non-meter charges. Maybe sewer could be based on water, or maybe you have garbage. Or you might even have a situation where you've got a customer, they owe you $1,000, and you can bill $10 each month until the $1,000 is paid off. It keeps track of how much is left to bill. So those kind of declining balances we can do. And then we can also do non-recurring charges: turn-ons, turn-offs, bad checks, all the accounting, bill it once, but don't bill it again. We can easily track deposits. You can have multiple deposits. You can refund deposits when they final automatically, or you can refund deposits based on what you consider to be good payment history. Other information, these fields are blank. You can have 15 user-definable fields to track on your customers, and the report designer can print reports on these. We also have a nice feature called actions. Depending on what happens, we can automatically create an action. Maybe they gave you a bad check. It'll create an action. Maybe you want a warning. Once you give me a bad check, no more. So you can have a warning, at the counter or as you enter in payments. Or if they're disconnected, those are automatic actions. You can create your own code. It gives you a great place to track detailed information on your codes. What happened? You can track the date, and then you've got unlimited text to describe it, and the same thing with the reference number. And you can have attachments. Maybe there's an application that you have them fill out, or maybe they damaged a meter and you took a picture and you attached it to their account. But what we have here is everything that we track on the customers. Now, let's say you get a call from your customer. I can very quickly go to their inquiry. And on one screen, we have everything about this customer. Our goal is that you can answer every question you get without leaving this screen. One question might be, well, what's my balance? Here it is. It even ages it. Or maybe they're calling saying, I didn't get my bill. Can you reprint it? I can come here and see literally every bill, a breakdown for all the different charges. I could pick any one of these and I could reprint that bill. And it says reprint on it. So I can hand it to them or I could email it. Now, my guess is you get really specific questions like, why is my water so high? So I can come here to transactions and maybe look at every time I've billed water, when it was billed, how much was it? What's the consumption? Was it an actual reading or an estimate? And so I've got all that information right here. Or maybe there's a question on hey, how did you apply that $100 payment? I can drill down right here and see how that payment was applied. So once again, unlimited history. I can print their history for any date range, and literally it'll show everything that's that account. And then last but not least, if there's any service orders, any event that you've created a service order, I can see a summary view of it, or I could drill down and get detailed information. So once again, all right here. And then one thing I forgot to tell you is on any address, if you hit display map, we're going to ask you if you like Google Maps or Yahoo Maps and just take you to the property. So we're using that tool based on the service address, the billing address. So that's what we can track on your customers. Now, going back, other things you might do daily. If a meter goes bad in the middle of the cycle, we can pull it out. I can enter in my readings, or I can use a long list of automated devices that we work with that you simply just in the setup pick the one. We have several that we work with so that you're no longer keying those in. I do have the ability to key in payments directly into the utility billing. As I mentioned earlier, I can even do a mass estimate. Let's say that Badger's not working and Joe's sick. I need to still get the bills out. I can do an estimate for everybody. I also have this meter report that I can pull for vacant properties and see who has consumption. There shouldn't be any, so I can be very proactive. And as I mentioned earlier, you can drop off payments at the bank. You can batch in payments. So lots of ways to electronically get those payments. And if you are using the website, if you run this menu option, we're going to grab all those payments from the website, create a batch. So you're not keying those guys in. They all come in electronically. And I forgot to mention, you get your money the next business day, and it's really easy to reconcile. You can easily see, okay, here are the payments and here's how I can reconcile it. So those are things that you might do daily. One feature that I really like is if you do get a bad check, I can very easily reverse it. Now, if I know the account number, I simply just type it in, but I can pick which one that I want to reverse. I'm going to put the charge back out there. And at the same time, I'm going to hit them with an additional NSF fee and create an action. It's a bad check, all in one step. And it's going to tell the accounting system. So once again, the benefits of having everything work together, you don't have to remember to tell the accounting. We're going to tell it for you. Now, under periodic, this is where you're going to get your bills out. And we have a couple of really nice features. One is, as I mentioned, we're a cycle billing. I could bill just finals. I've got two guys, they're ready to leave town. I can bill them today. Or I could select my normal cycle. Let's get everybody. However, there's a problem with two customers. How many times have you had the situation where I'm ready to get the bills out? I've got 1,000, but I've got a problem with two, and I can't get the two fixed until Friday. With our solution, you can pull out the two, bill the 99%, get those bills in the mail today, and deal with the other two on Friday, and then bill those two guys separately. So to me, that's a stress reliever. So once I have my group, I've got edits, I calculate, I can print, I have the option to do a laser postcard or a laser statement. Now, keep in mind, if customers have signed up to get their bill emailed, we're not printing those bills. We know immediately when we post, the emails go out, the bills are posted to the website, they can view it immediately. We also have some customers that have decided it's cheaper for Central Square to print those bills than it is for them internally, and it doesn't matter on the number. So if they decide to outsource it, when you hit print, you can go here and track the print job on our website and track that we received it, we printed it, we mailed it. And you're able to outsource that job, and it's less than you, and that doesn't even include your labor. Those are just hard costs. We're able to pass on that better postage rate. So like I said, lots of options. We also do a very good job of the delinquent processing. We can do a delinquent letter. It's a mail merge with Word, or we can do a delinquent postcard. All of that happens here. and we can very easily do adjustments. It updates the account immediately. Tons of reports. Um, like I said, I'll point out a couple that I really think that you're going to like. One is this account balance report. Now, anybody can get you a balance today. That's easy. We have the ability to get you a balance for any date. What were the balances 6 months ago? That's typically what the auditor wants to know. And typically, if you don't have a system that can do this, you're hoping that somebody printed the report because you can't get back to it. With us, put in the date, rerun it. We know what the totals were at that point. I can also do consumption for any date range, balances. I can even pull out a report and see when just one charge was billed over the last 5 years. So tons and tons of reports. I know who's inactive. They still have a balance. If I'm doing that declining balance, I think you'll find that we've got all the reports, lots of inquiries, billing side. Now, it looks like I've got a few minutes left. I wanted to go ahead and just take a peek at what we call our general government modules. Basically, I want to talk about, I talked about this earlier, the benefits of having one database of names and addresses. So think about it. You get a call from one of your constituents. The only thing they know is their name. You're able to search your database, and on one screen, you're going to be able to see everything about that person. So you're going to be able to see, do they have any tax accounts? This guy's got 8 or 9. Have they ever had a code violation? And on any one of these, I can drill down and get to that detail. Have they had a permit or a license? A utility bill? Have I sent them an invoice? Have they ever had an animal license? And once again, that's just by knowing their name. Everything's on one screen and it's not different silos. We have the exact same view on property. And so you could actually look at a certain parcel, and on one screen you can see, and I've got lots of ways to look it up. I can look it up if I know the owner, the legal description. And most of our municipalities actually have us bring in information from the county so that they start with a database of all their property owners. They know who owns it. They know the legal description. They know the valuation. We've got some that we do the tax billing because you've got to have those components. But they also know, well, what utility account is at that address? I can drill down and see that same inquiry. Or what code violation, irregardless of who's lived there, has happened at this location, or what building permit. So once again, a different view, and all of these applications use these components. So we can literally automate your permits, your code enforcement, your license. It does renewals. But everything that needs to flow accounting-wise, we're going to create those journal entries. And then we also can do municipal courts, public safety. We have a lot that might just use our courts, and there's a lot of accounting on that ticket, and it all flows. But the last thing I want to show you today, before I open it up to questions, is our report designer. So this is a tool that currently works with the financial pieces and the utility billing. And we provide you with a dashboard. So we ship this with some reports that you can modify, you can change. Primarily, I think you're going to use this to create your own reports. And just to give you an idea, first of all, let's say you had a long list. I can search. Maybe I want to get a list of every report that has the word vendor in it. I can quickly find it. You can also put your favorites at the top, but it'll sort it based on specific module. What I want to first is show you some examples where we've used this tool to create reports, and then we'll just take a quick look at how you would actually create a report. One of the things I really like about this is with this tool, we give you the ability to provide drill down in your reports. You've seen a lot of drill down in our inquiries, but you can actually add drill down in a report. And here's an example. So obviously, you can have different graphics and you can have logos and different colors, all that stuff. But we have the ability, if you use this little button right here, if I want to know what makes up that total, what's the journal behind that, if I hit this button, I can see the drill down in the actual report itself. I don't have to go to the software. You can also on any report, if I want to, if I want to do a find, I can search and see, certain words. I can search for it. I can also on any report that I create any kind of report, and it's any type of file, and it's in a very clean format, so that if somebody wants, 5 pieces of information, I can drag those 5 fields over and just create that file. It's that easy. You can have watermarks. So lots of neat little things you can do. You can also do graphical reports. Let's say, as an example, your board is more of, hey, I want to see pictures instead of a bunch of numbers. You can graphically display it. And here's an example where we've taken the same information and we have graphically displayed it. So, basically, departments looking at a budget versus actual, and it's, and once you create it, it's on your menu option. You can run at any point, but you can graphically display your data. You can even create your own utility. So, like I said, very, very powerful. What we've done with this tool is give you access to all your data fields. So here's an example. I want to add a new report. So the first thing that I would do is I would give it a name. And I would probably describe it, what's in this report. And then you pick which product you want to report on. And I'm going to say payroll. And I'm going to sort by, look at it from the employee's data point of view. Now, if I don't have access to payroll, looks like I've already called this one before. There we go. And if I don't have access to to payroll data, I'm not going to be able to get to that information. So it does look at your security. And so in just a second, it's going to bring up essentially a blank screen. So here's your canvas. So, if I wanted to put the logo, I could put a logo here. And if I wanted to, put the name of the report, I could put it here. But the most important thing we do is on the far right-hand side, these are all the data fields that are in the payroll module. You can now see them, and they're that you can recognize. So if I wanted to do something just really simple, like I wanted the name of the employee, maybe I want to know their email address, and I want to, maybe I want year-to-date payroll totals, year-to-date gross. Boom. That could be a report. That could be a file. However, you can get really fancy. Over here on the left-hand side, here's the drill down, so you can add drill down in the report, or tables, or charts, or graphs. You can sort down here. You can do filters. So part of our delivery is, training, so that, we're going to teach you how to be as simple or as elaborate as you want. Or maybe, it's a tool that, for a couple hours, we create it for you, but then you have it going forward. So the key thing is, think about all those data fields and utilities and payroll and payables and the general ledger. We give you access so that you can literally create any kind of report, or you can modify existing reports that we have. So, so what I want to do is open it up to see if there are any questions. I will unmute people. So, like I said, if there's any questions, but I would be happy to stay on. Any questions? And also, let me bring up my contact information. So I've got these right here. So here's my contact information. So if you do have questions afterwards, or maybe you want to get a quote on what you've seen today, would be happy to do that. Or if you want to set up a time maybe to look at payroll, we can do that, or any other product. We didn't cover courts or some of those other general government modules, but would love to hear from you, and we can certainly give you a quote, or take a further look at what you've seen today. We've been doing this for over 40 years, have well over 1,000 customers all over North America. Okay, well, I certainly thank you for your time today.